what's up, everybody? True Boxing here. Thank you for coming back to get hit with the truth. So today, gonna do the breakdown video for Arthur Beterbiev and Marcus Browne. They collide on Friday, December 17th in the main event of an ESPN Plus card. Really looking forward to this fight. It's for the unified light heavyweight championship of the world. Beterbiev's the reigning champion. This is a mandatory defense against Marcus Browne, the former interim champion. And I'm really looking forward to seeing these two guys lock horns. It's two top 10 guys. You got Beterbiev, pretty much the, you can argue the number one light heavyweight in the world. I think most people do have him at number one. I personally have him at number two. I think Dimitri Bivol's resume is slightly better, but I'll be honest, a nice win over Marcus Browne puts Beterbiev on top. And a win for Marcus Browne is huge too. It puts him right there in the top 3, top 2 area. So this video, if you guys have not heard or seen my breakdown videos before, they're pretty simple. It's I get full in detail on what I think is going to go on in this fight, but I ask a lot of questions. I start with the favorite, in this case, Arthur Beterbiev. I would start with him, and I say what he's done coming into the fight, you know, what he's been doing recently, boxing. And then I jump into what does he need to do to win the fight, if he can win by knockout, if he can win by decision, what does it mean for him, what does it mean for boxing if he wins or loses. And then I go over to the underdog and discuss him. And then after that, I give my final prediction on what I think is going to happen in this fight. I like to do these a few weeks out. That way people have a good amount of time to check it out and get ready for the fight, because these fights are exciting. So let's jump into it. Let's jump into the favorite, Arthur Beterbiev, the reigning and defending unified heavyweight champion, light heavyweight champion of the world. He's coming into this fight. He bounced back from a year-and-a-half layoff because of COVID and just a lot of delays during 2020. Towards the end of the year, not being able to get a fight going. He bounced back in, in March, and took on his IBF mandatory, Adam Dines, and dominated him over, I believe it was a 9th or 10th round stoppage win, as he pretty much just beat him up, outworked him, and, shook off that rust from what was his career best win prior to that in October of 2019, when he unified titles and defeated Alexander Votsik, the Nail. And prior to that, he beat Hot Rod Kalaj something. His nickname was Hot Rod, who that's a similar opponent with Marcus Browne. Hot Rod gave Marcus Browne hell, and Beterbiev back in May of 2019 rolled over him with a 5th round TKO victory. So Beterbiev, a lot of people have him number one. He's got a lot going for him, and he's got a lot at risk, He wants to be the undisputed champion at 175. There's been talks of him and Dimitri Bivol last year that fell through because of COVID, but the original plan was for them to lock horns at some point last year. And they were both discussing it. They both wanted the fight. I think there was something even verbal talked about between the two. And then the other, there's been talks with Joe Smith Jr. to possibly unify belts. So, this is a fight that a lot of people have been wanting right here. And, and me personally, him and Bivol, or him and Joe Smith now. And, he wants to unify all the belts and everything. And to be honest, I think Beterbiev, he's trying to strike now, beat Marcus Browne, and maybe get a big fight to unify belts in the first half of the year, because Canelo Alvarez, if he follows through with his intention to move up to cruiserweight to win a championship in a 5th weight class, he's not going to stay at cruiserweight, because he already said the other day he'll probably come into that fight probably around 180 pounds or so for that cruiserweight title fight. If that's the case, if he comes in at that weight, then he's probably gonna if he comes in at that weight, he's probably moving back down in weight, most likely. He's doing that for historic purposes, to become the first Mexican to ever win championships in 5 different weight classes. But other than that historic moment, he's going to come back down. And Beterbiev's already been linked to Canelo at times for a possible opponent. And if Beterbiev has more belts than Canelo, that just makes him more of an attractive fight for Canelo. So realistically, if Canelo's fighting in May, Beterbiev fights in December and maybe gets a first half of the year opponent out of the way to unify belts, possibly, that opens the door possibly for next year in September for Beterbiev to possibly have his crack, or maybe even early 2023. That's the thing is setting up that fight. These are one of those fights you got to win right here. So Beterbiev's coming in focused. I think he wants this one bad, and Marcus Browne is a good name to get on your resume. He really is. So what kind of fight does Beterbiev need to have to win this one? I just think he needs that effective aggressiveness that Beterbiev brings. But Beterbiev brings the fight. He's never tasted defeat, so he's hungry and he wants to keep proving himself and keep beating all the best opposition that he can. And the way he can do that is by boxing his way in, jabbing, working his way in. Even if the other guys score more points, hit to the body, then move upstairs to the head. Break your opponent's will. Break him down. That's what he did with Alexander Votzik, who's a very good fighter, and he just broke his will and broke him down. And that's what he needs to do to win this fight. He needs to take him into the deep waters, and he needs to drown him. If he can't stop him and hurt him early, but he needs to make sure that he makes an impression on Marcus Browne early. Test Marcus Browne's chin out. But he needs to not get careless, because Marcus Browne is one of those opponents that can land from different angles. He's a good boxer, and he's got good power. He can definitely disturb Beterbiev, by just boxing him and timing him. If Beterbiev allows himself to get timed, he's been hurt before, he's been dropped before. You never know. It could be a short night for Beterbiev. So he needs to be smart, work his way in, box his way in, keep his chin down, and he needs to cut the ring off. He does not need to let Marcus Browne move all over the place. He does that, that's going to be a mistake. I'll tell you that right now. So Beterbiev's key is box his way in, cut the ring off, and land to the body, because Marcus Browne, he hasn't been in a tough 12-round fight very many times, and he's been inactive, and Beterbiev's used to being inactive. He's used to that. And he comes in great shape. But Marcus Browne is not so much used to that, and he's heading into the biggest fight of his career right here. Might be a little bit over his head, so Beterbiev really needs to test Marcus Browne's will in this fight and press forward and just work that body and pound him. So we'll see. Can Artur Beterbiev win this fight by knockout? I absolutely think he can. I think he can hurt Marcus Browne early, and I think he could also break him down and stop him late. He definitely can. I think he has that kind of power. Can he win by decision? Yeah, I think he can win a decision against Marcus Browne. It's not going to be easy. Marcus Browne is a very good boxer, but I think Beterbiev can win a decision. I think he's got enough boxing ability, and he's hungry enough to where he can win enough rounds to beat Marcus Browne by decision. What does it mean for Beterbiev if he beats Marcus Browne? Well, like I said, it just keeps his star on the rise, really. I mean, he keeps pressing forward towards unification bouts and potentially a Canelo fight in the future. I mean, that's everybody's goal from 160 to 175 in that area, is to land a fucking Canelo fight. It's a money payday. It's a once-in-a-lifetime payday kind of deal. And if you're victorious, I mean, it makes you a superstar, and you can ride that for life. So that's what he wants. He wants to stay in that Canelo sweepstakes, and a win would be huge right here. It would just add to his resume. He's again, Marcus Browne's a top 10 light heavyweight. He's solid. He's got good skill, and he can kind of do it all. So for Beterbiev to come in and upend him and beat him, it would be huge for Beterbiev. What does it mean for Beterbiev if he loses? Well, it's going to devastate him. It really is, because Beterbiev, again, he wants to be in that Canelo sweepstakes. He wants to be right there. And a win keeps him, or puts him a step ahead of Bivol as the top guy at 175. So it would be his first loss, again, depending on how he lost this fight. Because, again, it wouldn't be a complete shame or a surprise to lose to a guy like Marcus Browne. Not one bit. Marcus Browne is very good. But a loss right now would really hurt him. He's coming in as a favorite, and, you know, people are expecting him to keep grinding forward. So he needs to win this fight. That's a big deal for him. What does it mean for boxing if Beterbiev loses? Well, people like Beterbiev's style. He's entertaining. He's fun to watch. He's a good combination of a boxer-puncher. And I think it hurts boxing a little bit for him to lose his belts and all that stuff right now. I think it would hurt a little bit. What does it do for boxing if he loses? You know, well, for boxing, it'd be better for Beterbiev to win this fight. It's just better for Beterbiev to win this fight for boxing purposes, because he stays undefeated, he stays a unified champion, and I think it's a better potential matchup for Canelo right now. I think people will be more excited for Beterbiev if he won. So now we're going to jump over to the underdog, the former interim champion, Marcus Browne. And we start with, you know, looking at what he's done coming into this fight. I usually go back and look at the last 3 fights, so let's do that. His last 3 fights date all the way back to January of 2019. And that night, he fought on the Pacquiao-Browne undercard, and he scored the biggest win of his career when he completely outboxed and dominated former 2-division champion Badou Jack over 12 rounds to become the interim champion of the WBA. Now, this fight was big, very big for Marcus Browne coming in, because, you know, Badou Jack was great, is still a very solid fighter, very good fighter. And, you know, there was a bad cut was suffered down Jack's forehead that I believe affected the fight, but Marcus Browne was just absolutely outboxing him and outclassing him. I had him winning pretty much 5 of the first 6 rounds. And, you know, I don't know if that would have stopped whether there was a cut or not. Jack has the excuse that there was a cut and he's a second half of the fight fighter, and he is. But I think Marcus Browne's style, his southpaw boxing style that night, just neutralized Badou Jack. And it was a great performance. It really was. You know, and I think it just gets overshadowed by the cut to Badou Jack. But it made Marcus Browne, at the time, was undefeated and the interim champ. And then in August of 2019, he went in against Jean Pascal, former champion. I believe was overlooking him. He came out smoking. He fucking first 2 rounds, he hurt Pascal a couple times, was hitting him with big hard shots, looks like a knockout's coming. And then I believe in the 3rd round, an overhand right by Pascal just put Browne down, and it changed the whole landscape of the fight. Now, 2 more knockdowns in the next few rounds. And then in the 7th round, a cut stopped the fight, and it went to the scorecards, where Jean Pascal, because of those 3 knockdowns, won by 1 point on all 3 judges' scorecards, which means that Marcus Browne was winning the fight in terms of the overall boxing, but the 3 knockdowns that Pascal scored really caused the scoring to go in his favor. Pascal got a huge technical decision, upset, and took the interim title, and that really affected Marcus Browne. I know he had some personal issues. I don't really remember exactly what those were, but I know he had some personal issues that kept him out of the ring during last year, COVID. He came back at some point, might have been the end of last year or early this year, and took on little-known veteran Denis Grachev, and he outboxed him over 10 rounds and everything to bounce back. But Marcus Browne coming into this fight, little on shaky terms. He had his best win just a couple years ago, but since then hasn't done a lot, and he suffered his first defeat. So how is that going to affect him? Is he going to be ready for this mandatory fight? Well, taking the fight, in my opinion, not backing out of it, that to me is a step up in the right direction to begin with. Because, you know, he's a PBC guy. Yes, this is a mandatory shot. You don't want to pass those up, but I don't think Marcus Browne is the type of guy that would take a fight against a top-ranked guy like this unless he was absolutely ready. So for me, I believe Marcus Browne believes in himself. He believes in his ability, and I think he's coming in hungry, trying to win this fight. Now, what kind of style, what does Marcus Browne need to do to win this fight against Artur Beterbiev to become the unified light heavyweight champion in his first title shot? What does he need to do? I think he really needs to box. The way he fought Badou Jack that night, he needs to mirror that, but he's probably going to have to move and he's going to have to perfect what he did that night against Jack, because Beterbiev is a better fighter than Badou Jack is. He just is, and he's stronger. And Beterbiev is going to come right at him. So what he needs to do is he needs to jab, and he needs to throw that left hand, and he needs to try to land those punches, those counter punches at an angle. If Beterbiev is coming in and with that head first, he needs to land the uppercut down the middle, the straight left down the middle, and just that straight left when he's taking a step back and moving to the side, using his angles, landing those shots, and a right hook. A right hook is gonna eat up Beterbiev if it's on point, you know. So Marcus Browne, the best thing about him, he's a great boxer puncher. This guy has good, solid power. He doesn't have the power that Beterbiev has, but he's got very good power. And Beterbiev has been hurt before, so he needs to try to land those perfectly timed shots to try to set up a big upset win here. So, can he win this fight by knockout? Can Marcus Browne knock out Artur Beterbiev? To be honest, I think he can. I think Marcus Browne is a very strong fighter. He is. I think he's got very good power, and the timing that he has, because he's a good boxer, really can set up a power shot. So yeah, I think he could knock Beterbiev out. I think he could hurt him early in the fight and possibly stop him there. I think he might be able to hurt him later and break him down and possibly beat him. I definitely think Marcus Browne has the skill and the power to stop Artur Beterbiev. Now, can Marcus Browne win this fight by a decision? I think he can win by a decision too. I think he has the skill enough to outwork and take 7 rounds away from Artur Beterbiev. I think that's possible. So yeah, I think he can win a decision. What does it mean for Marcus Browne if he wins this fight? Well, it's going to be huge. It's going to be huge for Marcus Browne. It'll be an upset, but it won't be just a shocking upset. I mean, it'll be an upset, but he would shoot straight to the top of the division. He becomes a world champion for his first time, and it would just be huge for his career. It really would have him at the top as the top dog at 175. It really would. So, and it could set up a rematch with Jean Pascal. A lot of possibilities if Marcus Browne were to upset and beat Artur Beterbiev. What does it mean for Marcus Browne if he loses this fight? Well, you know, it's going to be devastating because he's already lost to Jean Pascal about a year and a half, you know, close to 2 years ago now. You know, that was a tough loss for him. It really was. And to come in and to lose, depending on how you lose, actually, it really would hurt Marcus Browne and derail him big time. You know, Marcus Browne, it might kill his confidence, especially if he gets his ass whipped. But if he loses a tough one, a close one, then I think Marcus Browne knows at that point, if that were to happen, how good he is and where he stands at the light heavyweight division. So it really just depends on how he loses. I don't think it's going to be the most devastating thing if he fights a close, tough fight and loses. But if he gets his ass whipped and he gets knocked out, he really is going to have to start over from scratch, and that could be tough. That could be very tough. And is it better for boxing if Marcus Browne wins or loses? You know, it's better for boxing, to be honest, if he loses, because Beterbiev's more of a star. He's got the bigger name. He's undefeated record, and you know, people want to see him fight right now against the top dogs. You know, if Marcus Browne wins, you almost have to hit the reset button at 175. A lot of people don't want to do that, especially with the champion of the caliber of Beterbiev. A lot of people don't want to start over, you know, and hit the reset button. Now, it'd be good in certain areas, but I think overall it's better for boxing if Marcus Browne loses his fight. But Marcus Browne doesn't need to be worried about that. He needs to be worried about going and unseating this guy. So, finally, what's my prediction on this fight? Who do I think is going to win between Marcus Browne and Artur Beterbiev for the Unified Light Heavyweight Championship? And I really think it's going to be a test of will right here. I think Marcus Browne is a very live underdog. I think his boxing ability and his power, he's definitely got a shot of winning this fight. I think he can win in any way too. I think he could knock Beterbiev out early. I think he could break him down and knock him out late, and I think he could win a decision. I absolutely think any of those. But Beterbiev has so much heart, so much will, and he keeps coming at you. And he's dangerous. He's one of those Russians he's just that Russian bear type mentality and fighter. And I think he's just going to keep coming. I think he's going to keep his chin down. He's going to get hit with some shots. But I think he's going to make his impression felt early. And then I think he's going to take Browne to the deep, late part of the fight, and I think he's going to drown Marcus Browne. So I'm thinking a knockout, middle to later rounds for Beterbiev. But again, to be honest, I really think any outcome in this fight could happen. I think either guy could knock each other out early. I think either guy could knock each other out late. And I think either guy could win a decision. So it really is, you know, I would not be surprised at any result, I guess is what I'm trying to say here. I wouldn't be surprised if Beterbiev absolutely dominates Marcus Browne. I wouldn't be surprised if the opposite happens. That's the kind of skill both these guys have and ability. Well, we'll see what happens, but I think Artur Beterbiev's will and his heart is going to shine through, and I think he's going to beat Marcus Browne and stop him in the middle of the later rounds and retain his unified light heavyweight title. So that's it. That's the breakdown video for Artur Beterbiev versus Marcus Browne as they collide Friday, December 17th on ESPN Plus for the unified light heavyweight championship of the world. I hope you guys enjoyed it. True Boxing, you've been hit with the truth.